Sometimes we don't interpret things in the same way that an animal would. So for example, somebody coming right down into an animal's face, we're just showing sort of typical primate behavior in terms of how we interact with other people, but that might be perceived as a threat by an animal. So then we can look more closely at their body language and get a better idea of what might be going on for them. So when we're looking at fear, we might see sort of some obvious signals like a reduced body posture, tucked tail, the ears back. Some of the more subtle signals, so licking of the lips is a common one, yawning, sometimes panting. So a lot of the different oral behaviors can sometimes tell us about how stressed a dog might be. But in most cases, with animals that are fearful and have fear-based aggressions, if you back off and give them some space, you'll see a reduction in those signals. So the more you put pressure on them, the more the signals go up. The more you back off, then they reduce. And really what it comes down to is that we think that it's much more about the management of the dog, so how they're raised, how the owner interacts with them and so on, and that's what's shaping their behavior and resulting in them potentially becoming more fearful or more aggressive later on. It's really not about the breed, it's about how we work with our dogs.
Well, what we're looking at is dog responses to a routine veterinary clinic with their owners in the room versus owners outside of the room. We are noticing that dogs are getting a little restless. The fact that they've been separated from their owner during an exam. We've seen in a previous study that we just ran last month that dogs are pawing at the door, whining, and kind of directing all of their body language towards the door that they left their owner from. So we wanted to do a follow-up study and see what the difference is, if it's actually making an effect, if having the owner just sitting on the chair, holding that leash, if that's going to actually kind of reduce their fear behaviors during that exam. Another study that we potentially will be looking at next year will be where the exam takes place. Some clinics put their dogs on the table for an examination, which is quite stressful, especially if it's very slippery and if it's a larger breed dog. So we want to look at the effect of having the exam on the table versus on the ground, for instance. There's a bunch of different things that definitely can take place. Again, being aware of the dog's behavior is number one. If the dog's kind of stressed out, you have to know, of course, the vets already know to modify the exam or do whatever they can around that.